Thank you, Lobet. Japanese artwork was created to honor and to remember. During World War II, a lot of that artwork had been destroyed. Also, along the lines of Japanese artwork was Christianity artwork, which a lot of people are more familiar with due to the fact that Hitler was kind of obsessed with biblical stuff, say like the Cup of Christ or the Ark of the Covenant. But not a lot of people follow the Japanese side of the story, being that the Japanese art had been destroyed because of the fact that, according to Wikipedia, that in December of 1941 is when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, which was a direct strike on America, which brought America into World War II. Hitler had not yet came at the U.S., so it put a lot, like I said, a lot more hatred towards the Japanese culture. There was movies out with Americans making fun of the Japanese with a big T. Even Popeye, I've seen Popeye commercials, excuse me, shows. But what I have here today is I'd like to show everybody is a scroll that was actually in a dojo that my grandfather was allowed to train in during World War II. Now, he was one of the very first Americans to be trained in this dojo. As you can see here, I will get a little bit more into the description. This is Cao Song. He was one of the very first, from what I was told, masters of the dojo. This little red mark right here is the artist's signature, or we call it stamps, for people who follow Japanese art, and Chinese art too. Now these little marks up here are burn marks from the dojo being caught on fire. Now this is about 3 feet tall, and where it would be placed is above, say, a shrine or a bunch of candles with maybe some incense. And what they would do is they would pray and give honor to Tao Sung for his teachings. Now, the scroll was found by one of my grandmother's brothers, my grandmother Mary, who is Japanese and lived through Hiroshima bombing. At the time, she was studying to be a geisha when my grandfather met her, and he was working at the post office for the military. Now, her brother found this in a warehouse, I would say maybe 3 or 4 years after my grandfather had been shipped out of Japan and had already practically married my grandmother. They were still together, but they weren't like married yet because he was still serving and she wasn't ready to move to the States. Now, my grandmother used to tell me a lot of stories when I was younger. Well, not really younger. Maybe when I was in my teens, when I could understand fully what was going on, when I started researching Pearl Harbor for class and history, about how the soldiers, what they would do is they would destroy their artwork when they come into houses, and that they would pretty much tear up everything. If they didn't tear it up, they stole it, which means that they would take it and ship it back to their families, back in the U.S. to save or to sell or to do family heirlooms. It didn't matter how many years old this stuff was. Like, my grandmother's brother, my uncle, who found this scroll, said that he only paid $5 for it, and it was $5 US dollars. And the scroll itself was over 200 years old. Now, along the lines, he's also found other things like a samurai sword, which had been passed down through my family. He found it in the attic of one of my great-great-grandfather's houses that had been hit by Hiroshima. And it's actually an heirloom that had been passed down from grandfather to grandson. I wish I could have got my hands on it, but my grandfather is, thank God, still alive. But anyway, now then, not only was it destroyed by the soldiers, but this artwork, a lot of the artwork had also been destroyed by the atomic bomb. Now, my grandmother lost a couple more brothers, 4 brothers in the atomic bomb, but 2 of them happened to survive, which, thank God I got to meet one of them. I didn't get to meet the one that found the scroll, but my Uncle Ichi, I was blessed to meet him before he unfortunately passed. Now, I have been looking on eBay for stuff from that time frame for my grandfather's dojo. I mean, there had to be other things like shrines, other teachings, scrolls, ashes, urns, just pretty much anything, because I am fascinated with the Japanese culture, and I'd like to learn how my roots are. That pretty much does it for my speech on Japanese art. Now, in our discussions that we have gone over, we have talked about the Nora mask, ancient armor, and the famous money cat. Money cat's still around. You can always find it at any Japanese steakhouse. He's right there next to the toothpicks. And we've also checked out religious temples, and of course the artwork that I had here today. I really hope that this was very informative to you, to my audience, and to you about the Japanese culture, because if it wasn't for Japanese, I wouldn't be here, because I am Japanese. Thank you very much.